All right, Q&A time. If you all have questions, I'll try to have answers. Whoa, can you type it? Or not type it, say it, Colin? Wrote a lot. Did Colin peace out again? Ask questions and just roll out. Yo, this is my question. Peace. Ah, gross. Here, I'll just read it so you can keep your chewing. How to job search. You never see film companies posting ArtStation ads, and there's a million indie game studios. I want to know how to explore every avenue possible. So, that's your question, eh? So, the way that I answer this question is usually I enter it by asking a question right back at you. And the question usually is, what do you want to do, Colin? If I had a golden ticket, and that golden ticket can get you a job anywhere in the universe, where would that be?
That's a really good question. Well, I don't know. I want to say Blizzard
Well, why
because
don't you want to say?
everyone wants to work at Blizzard, and that's some pretty fierce competition.
So, your point?
Okay, we'll make it Blizzard then.
Yeah, think about it. Like, why wouldn't that be true for any other studio? And why would you want to work somewhere that would have less competition? Wouldn't that mean that the standards would be potentially lower? Which would mean that your artwork would just be kind of mediocre to even just get in there?
Oh, well, when I answered, I was forgetting about your golden ticket. I was thinking about where to aim at. But yeah, if you could just give me a job, golden ticket, sure, yeah, Blizzard, put me there right now.
But see, that's the point. Is like, not to say that you can go work at Blizzard right now, nor does it say you'll get it at the end of the month either, or even a year, or whatever. Right? The point I'm trying to make is a lot of times people are driven by just getting a job, right? And this is, I understand, is not entirely your fault. This mentality, it's a Western ideal. This standard of if you don't work or you don't have a sustainable career, you're kind of a loser, right? And what I'm trying to tell you is don't pay attention to that stuff too much, you know? Because when you start to focus in on like, well, how do I get a job or how do I find jobs? The answer to that is actually very easy, and I'll tell you that answer in just a second, and then I'll then come back to kind of the correlation to what I'm trying to get at. But like a lot of times, this Western ideal that people have is like, I gotta work, I gotta get a job right now, I gotta get in there, and I get in there, and you'll get there. I assure you, eventually. But then when you get there, you'll start to not like it potentially. You might realize it's not fulfilling, both
Oh, well,
like
when I ask
financially.
it, it's because like, I'm just asking about the first step. But like, as far as life goals and what my goal like 25 years from now versus my goal 1 year from now are two completely different things. Like, I just want to start by, getting paid to do art for the first time. That's like step one, but I'm not like that's the end of my aspirations in life.
Yeah, what I'm trying to tell you is uh, no, focus in on the larger goal now. I'm going to give you some uh, some strong arguments for why. So let me ask you, how old are you?
I'm 25.
Okay, so you're old enough for this to work really well. When you were 15. Did you have any clue that you were going to be where you're at today?
No.
So think about this. When you're saying you have this 25 year, like you have this longer goal, right? And I'm trying to say that's ludicrous. You could just look back just to when you were 15, 10 years ago. You can even look back when you were just 20, right? When you're 20 years old, did you have this type of stuff in mind? You know? And the answer is most likely not, right?
At 20, I actually had exactly this in mind.
Okay. So you're doing what you wanted to do when you were 20. Now you're doing 25. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what would that be exactly? So when you were 20 years old, you said, I'm going to do this. And what was that?
Well, just more that I had things that I wanted to do. This like doing this kind of thing is something I wanted to do, but like I wasn't doing it. I wasn't making myself do it and like getting real with myself about it. Now kind of like, for
Okay.
the first time
Okay.
I am.
So you're getting to you're starting to meet me where I'm trying to get you to. Okay. You're starting to see it. Okay. Um, do you see what I'm trying to get at? And what it is like stop with these short steps because those short steps will just consequentially get you to that larger step. Sure. But you're not considering what could happen if you work for a small studio. And I'll tell you what will happen or what could happen. Let's say you get a job working at a small indie web design company or something like that doing graphic art for them, right? Because you just want a job doing art. But now you're doing 8 hours a day, maybe 10 hours a day, because sometimes it's really hard and it's like very demanding. And now when you go home, what do you want to do? You want to start sketching? Probably not. And what you end up doing is you start building a really good portfolio in designing graphic designs for these little web games. And your whole portfolio is full of stuff like that. This goes on for another 5 years. You see the conundrum? Do you see kind of the problem?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So this drive to get a job, I'm telling you, is the wrong idea. Now, don't get this twisted. I'm not trying to say don't get a job. Okay. You know, I'm just saying make your goals and your habits focused on more practical and more useful things that have a long shot effect versus a short sighted effect.
Well, what you're saying is reminding me of, do you know who Neil Gaiman is?
I don't.
Oh, well, he's a British author. He's written like I don't know if you've heard the new TV show American Gods, but it's
Nah.
based off of a book that he wrote in the
Oh,
80s.
cool.
But he wrote all the Sandman graphic novels.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a pretty badass writer. But he has this speech. I really recommend you look it up
Yeah.
because
Can you put it
a lot
in
of people
Skype
look.
so that way we can all check it out?
Okay, sure, I'll
Sounds like
find it.
something
But
worth listening
it's
to.
called his Make Good Art speech. He gave it at a Harvard University thing, and he was talking about how his ultimate goal is his like he pictured it like a mountain, and every step that he took in his career, if he had a decision about what jobs to take
Mm,
or what road to go
yes.
down, he would always picture whether it takes him towards or away from the
Yeah.
mountain.
There you go. That sounds good. It sounds pretty accurate. That's what I'm trying to say. You say, well, if I had a golden ticket, I want to work at Blizzard. The reason why I asked you this, okay, is kind of parallel to the guy that you were just mentioning, is that why don't you just focus on that? Not to say that you'll get a job at Blizzard. You may never work at Blizzard. That might be a reality, okay? But does that mean you won't be happy? Does that mean you won't accomplish many things? Absolutely not. That's the point I'm trying to make, right? You might work for a company that is like trying to be like Blizzard, you know, or maybe has very similar style as Blizzard, but they're not there. But they end up making a huge game that is competitive to Blizzard type games. You get it? Case in
Yeah.
point, like Riot. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
and you might be one of the people on the ground floor of this company like Riot when they were just first starting out. You understand? And then you're going to be the kind of person that just says, you know what, I don't need to work at Blizzard because Blizzard came to me in the form of a different company, right?
Yeah.
And but the way that it could work out better for you is what I'm trying to say is that if you were just kind of had that very clear goal of like working for a studio that had a very clear aesthetic, clear kind of look and quality that you're just trying to aim for with your own work. Okay, right? So that's
I get better at the thing that is my thing.
yes. Instead of focusing on well, what can I? Because I can tell you, like, if you really want to get paid well, you can just be a plumber. That's what I did. I got when I first before I left to art school, I was a plumber, and one of the things that I tell people is that I made more money as a plumber than I did my first art job. You know what I mean? But it didn't matter because I was doing what I was doing. I was a concept artist for characters.
Oh
I
yeah,
was
I'm with you
much,
on that.
much, much, much happier.
I worked in labor for 6 years,
Yeah.
and I made a lot of money, and I hated my life.
Yes. So you don't want to make that mistake again, even if you think, well, I'm doing art though. No, it can be the same problem, just at a different face. All right. So you want to make it like I want to work in art, but I want to make sure that it's the kind of art that I love. You know, even if
Yeah.
it's just entry level. Like that's a better way of thinking about it, right? Because think about it like this: you mentioned film. Film in a lot of accounts don't have the kind of aesthetics that let's say Blizzard does. So it kind of sounds like a counterproductive strategy, right? You know what I mean? Because you can get paid really well. I worked in film and I got paid a tremendous amount. Like I got paid what was it like $4,500 a week. It was amazing, but I hated it. I literally hated every second of it. It was so bad. Not every second. That's not true. Like there's some films I worked on that I did
What
enjoy
was
the
it that you
people.
hated about it?
It just was not the same as like working in game development. There's weird politics involved. People are they want you to work ridiculously quick, and so sometimes it sacrifices like just quality, as you may have noticed in watching some films, right? But it's not entirely the artist's fault or the director or the costume designer. It's just it's just like the systematic problem, right? It's like the whole thing is just like a really, really fragile house of cards. You get what I'm saying? Like one, if it, one piece is misplaced, then the whole thing could fall apart, kind of thing. And I just didn't like that. And it's true in game development as well, but the difference is in game development, it feels like more like a family. You work on the project for years with the same people, and you feel close to them, you know. And if there's tremendous fallout, you kind of don't do it alone, you know. There's a lot of different things, and just like the stuff that I had to design, I wasn't a big fan. One project that I was working on, I felt, I felt like every step that we were making and designing, I felt like we were going backwards, and I rarely experienced that. Even on the other films I worked on, I definitely didn't feel that. I felt like I was getting better, right? Even though I didn't like all the other circumstances. But with this, it's just with this one film specifically, I was just like, oh my god, my art is literally getting worse and worse. Okay, and it was just rough. Like the criticism was really intense and like wasn't constructive. It was mostly just political. It was like, how do we make more money kind of decisions, and which is always a terrible strat. It really is. Not to say that having some economic understanding of how, or like some sort of financial understanding of how much more you can monetize. Like, I'm not saying that that's bad strategy entirely, but if that's like the heart of what you want to do when it comes to specifically entertainment, people can see right through that. That's what I'm trying to say. You know, people can see right through it. And so even if like monetization is like is a big factor to the development, you still have to make sure that people want to even engage in your entertainment. And I think gamers, in most instances, there's less of that than there is in film. And I think most of that is because games are still young, game development, right? But
Yeah.
but my point is getting back to kind of what I'm trying to say to you is just stay a little bit more guided on the path of what is it that you want to do, less about how can I get that jobs. Okay. Now, now that I told you all that, let me give you the context of why it's easy to just get a job. Because I said I was going to tell you. Just be really. Uh, there's only two things you can really do. Be really good, right? Which is probably the most obvious answer, but it's just the realest answer ever. And connect. Like go out there and make friends and talk to people often. There's a reason why I have you guys have access to Discord and Skype groups. Like I could have easily just kept you guys separate and just sent an email and have you guys join me that way. You know? No, it's
Yeah.
like it's
Well,
important.
like
It's important that you
that
make
kind of
friends.
leads me to another thing I wanted to ask you. Like, because that's something that right now, I took a job working as a tester at Warner Brothers, and I've been working there for like the last 9 months, and I've even like tried like my best to like be tactful about it and stuff, but try to like talk to like the concept artists that work there and like pick their brains, but it's just like everybody's so busy doing their thing. It's just like impossible. Like they like no one has time to talk to a fucking tester about stuff like that. It's like I don't know how to make something happen there. Like
So
trying to find people.
you're already experiencing the problem and conundrum that I just explained to you, like literally a moment ago. Like you're at a it seems like you're at a game studio, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
you're testing games and you're saying you're having a hard time. Like you would think it'd be easier. You're in. You made it in. And by the way, it's not impossible. The fact that you're in, you do have advantages. You have an opportunity to figure it out, right? But think about the circumstance that you might have put yourself in. The standard in which you've like the kind of first impression you're laying out there is that you're a game tester, you know? And so it's like it might potentially been detrimental. Imagine if you would have came in as an entry level artist. It would have been completely different, right? And in fact, I think game testers are more inclined to become either producers or game designers because that's the kind of the natural evolution of that job position. Because if you're a game
oh yeah,
tester,
for sure.
you understand the fundamentals of the game, and you're constantly criticizing the game, which inherently is teaching you about game design, right? Whether you're paying attention or not. And then that also can contribute to being a good producer because you understand that games are hard to make, and that knowledge is pretty useful to be able to talk to other people and make sure that they get their shit together, right? And so, um, but there is no parallel to art in game testing. Not to say that you can't learn a thing or two. It's just not as intuitive, you know.
Yeah.
And so this you're literally in the predicament that I was trying to suggest that you try to avoid. Okay, because now you're
Well, it
working.
was kind of, it was
Yeah,
either do this or be like, exhausted from labor and not ever be able to draw. So,
yeah. So you're right. This is actually still a better scenario, but it doesn't necessarily make you get any closer. Is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, so it's fine. Like you need to make money. That's not a big deal. I get that. Like I said, it's not about me saying don't get jobs. Like you gotta make that money. You gotta pay those bills. I get it. Okay, but
oh no, for sure you're right. Like when I started, I thought like, oh, maybe this will lead to something. I'm
no,
not gonna
they
lie.
hire like think of it another way. Like we hired a game tester, right? We want a game tester because we need that position filled. Like, wouldn't it actually be kind of hard for us to necessarily replace you, especially if you become really good, especially if you become accountable and reliable, and we can talk to you often, we can trust your insight as a game tester, right? And then you're like, oh yeah, but I want to be a concept artist, and we're like, but we already have concept artists, and we need you to be a tester because that position needs to be filled. Like, there's a reason why we hired you, you know? That happened to my friend. He was a modeler for WoW for like 6 years, and well, he's still been there. He's been there for almost like more than 12 years now, I think, or 11 years. But for like 6 years in, he was like, yeah, I think it's time to like for years he was just kind of like inching that he wanted to be a concept artist. But then he was like, I'm just going to go in there. I'm going to tell him to be a concept artist, right? He went into his art director. He's like, look, dude, like, I've been working here for quite a while, and I think it'd be nice that I can do more, front end design. Like that's what I really love. And he was really good at it too. Like, he was really good at concept design. And the art director told him kind of what I'm telling you now. He was just like, he's like, but listen, like you're the best modeler we have on staff, you know? Like you're the best. You know the pipeline the best. You help all the entry level guys. You teach them all, Like there's a reason why we have you as a senior environment dude, right? Like that's your position. And so like you have to understand that if we move you to concept, then we have a huge gap now in in our modeling team. And he couldn't argue against it because they were right, you know? And he was just like, oh my gosh, like what a crazy predicament, right? So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, it's not even like a thing where you like, yeah, you want to work there and you're going to work there for years and really work your way up. It's like, no, you're just going to get better at that thing that you're doing for so many years, and you're going to be more reliable, and they're going to give you more tasks. Like one day you'll be the game test manager, right? And then like you're going to be more valuable to them in your current position. This is why there's a popular saying in the industry is if you want to raise, quit. You know, if you want a new position, quit.
Well, I think like
Because
what I was mostly hoping was that like I would get to meet people and like talk to them and build connections and stuff, but that's
yeah,
not happening either.
you can definitely still make connections. Like that's something that if it's just if you just got dealt a bad hand with the people that happen to be there, they don't like to talk to anyone else. That's true for everywhere. Like for instance, you could talk to the modelers. Like don't feel like you only have to talk to concept artists. Make friends with everyone. You know, I think that's your next mistake. Again, you're too focused on how to get my next position, right? Like just focus on getting better and making friends. And that when I say it like that, it doesn't attach to making friends only with concept artists. You can just make friends with anybody who's worth being friends with. That's alongside other game testers. Because like, and which I'm sure you already are acquainted with some of them, right? And like, imagine one of the game testers leaves the studio. He begins his own game company, right? And you and him were good buddies, or you and her were really good friends, whatever, right? And they leave and they start their own studio and they remember that this is something that you love, which is concept art, right? And they're like, we should bring Colin onto the team and have him do concept art. See how that works?
Yeah, you never know who might come
Yeah,
back.
yeah. You never know, and that's including yourself, right? Like, I have had friends and students um, who are just now doing amazing things and on their own, and because I focused on being their friend first, not their network first, their friend first over networking, um, I've been able to have and maintain strong opportunities in my whole career because of it, you know? And so that's why I say you focus on those things, which is being good at your artwork and then also making strong connections with people and becoming friends, right? And so if you're not connecting with the guys over there, it's fine. Like talk to the modelers, talk to uh, the tech artists. Like me and one of my friends, Billy at Blizzard, he was a tech artist, and we would just play StarCraft and talk StarCraft at lunch. It was fun. And he would come to our baby showers and birthdays, and it was fine. And if I wanted to reach out to him, say, like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this thing. I want a badass tech artist. I could reach out to him because I know one. I know a guy. I know programmers, I know modelers, I know animators, I know producers. One of my students got a job opportunity through Riot because one of my old producers at Sony works at Riot now. And all my student had to say, he didn't know this, but my student said, I just took a class with Anthony Jones. And then my buddy Ryan, who's another producer at Riot, he's like, oh, Anthony, AJ? He's like, you know AJ? And he's like, yeah, he was one of my teachers. He's like, oh, dude, AJ's the best, man. He's like, yeah, let me send over your stuff. Like, I want to take a look at it, you know? And then now Ryan gave him like an art test and everything, and I'm not sure the progress of it now. I haven't talked to the student, but I told the student, yeah, tell Ryan, I told the student, tell Ryan, thanks for giving you an opportunity, and hope he's doing good, you know? You know, and Ryan, I remember him too because he was great. He was fun. He was a fun producer, and we'd always joke around. Make friends. Don't worry about anything other than that, right? Because here's another thing to think about. What if there's an art director you meet and you encounter in your journey to find opportunities in this world, right? You meet an art director for, let's say, Blizzard, and it's like he's one of the best artists in the industry. He's a really good art director, right? And you go up to him and you're thinking, this is my chance. I'm going to talk to this guy, and he's going to be give me all the insight I need, right? And then you go to talk to him, he blows you off and treats you like shit. Okay?
Very likely.
No, I don't think he'll
To have
treat you
some
like
point.
shit. But I'm just saying, let's say they just blow you off and treat you like crap. The treat you like crap is a really important part of this. Now you're in this predicament where if you just pander to this art director just because you want that job, right? And let's say he says, yeah, your stuff is good actually. You jerk, and slaps you in the face. Okay? Whatever a jerk person would may do to you, or something that you don't approve of. Okay? And let's say you do the art interview and they bring you in, and now he's your art director. Do you see now the situation
And
you
you
might have put
really
yourself?
win.
Yeah, did you actually get the dream job? Because now you're working with potentially somebody that you hate. You know, even if you're working at Blizzard. And by the way, that could happen at even a large studio like Blizzard, because Blizzard is multifaceted, meaning that there are different departments and each one is treated differently. Like I have friends who are always like, oh, so and so works at Blizzard. Do you know them? And I'm like, I have no clue who that person is. They're like, but they work at Blizzard. It's like, dude, Blizzard is 6,000 people staff, man. Like I don't. It's not like we have a meeting every day and we get to meet every single person on staff. Like I don't know every single person. Like if they were on cinematics or the WoW team, I might know them, especially if they were the artists, because I used to hang out with the people at WoW because they were just good friends of mine, and I still hang out with the people from WoW because they're still good friends of mine. And
6,000 people? Are you for real?
yeah, there's a lot, and they have
Wow.
four, I
They must
believe
have
now
huge
five
jobs.
teams. Yeah, so they have a lot, and each team, like I said, runs differently than the other team. They don't all run the same. It's not the same. They have different climates for each department. Okay, so my point to you is that right? Like don't focus in on the job. Okay, focus in on people. Focus in on your own work, and have like that golden ticket idea. Like I want to work for Blizzard, and have your work match and marry to that idea, and people will start to reach out to you organically. And I told that to one of my students, and he started working really hard at that. And he just told me that he got approached by their Here's the Storm team. Now, whether he'll get that job or not, I have no idea. Right? I told him that I think he's got what it takes, but we'll see if it works out. Right? But he's always. I told him the same thing. I was like, focus in on what you want to do, and he did. He just kept at it. He's been doing that for almost a year or two, and it seems like it might work out for him. If not this time around, definitely next time around. He's only getting better. I keep seeing him post his artwork, and he's only getting better. You know, and he goes to BlizzCon every year, and he hangs out with a lot of these guys. You know, like he is doing what I've suggested because all it takes is one person to be like, oh yeah, I think so and so's available. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
but then
really,
even then when that happens, you got to analyze, like you were saying, you got to analyze if it's really where you want to be going as well.
yes, and if your work is says where you want to go, then it's easier for both people to recommend you and for others to find you to do the kind of work that they're looking for in general. Okay, and so
Yeah, makes sense.
yeah, so now let's talk about like the job stuff, right? So it's really simple. Like you have quality work, and people got to know who you are. Okay, so think of it like this. Let's say you and me were working on a game project, right? Like you got some seed funding somehow, and I'm your art director. No, no, actually, let's reverse it. I'm the one that's giving you money, and you're the art director for this project that we're working on, right? And you and I agree that this game is going to be a dwarf battle arena game. It's going to be just a bunch of dwarves fighting each other. Okay? Now, and it's going to have some sense of style to it. Got it? That is the aesthetic. Okay?
So we're making this game
Yes. So looking at ArtStation, who should we hire? Do you see any images here that might be good?
for a concept artist.
Yes. Yeah,
Well, there's a
William.
lot to look at.
Yeah, William nailed it though. He said to the right. It's a trap. It's not a trap. It's very clear. It's a no-brainer. See this image right here on the far right that William was pointing out?
Oh,
It's
I might
dwarf.
have my chat window blocking it. Yeah, I have my chat window blocking it. Yeah, see it.
Oh, you're fired. I need to hire a better art director. Just kidding. Yeah, see that?
But I'm the one who has the funding, bro.
No, we switched roles. We switched roles.
Oh, yeah, now you have the funding. Damn it.
Yeah. You see, so here's the point. There's a lot of amazing artwork here. You know, like a lot of the artwork on the front page, including my own. Look at that amazing artist.
Very humble artist.
Yes. But I would not get hired. Like whoever did this artwork won't get hired. You hear me? Because we're not looking for that. We're looking for stuff like this. It's different, right? It's not the same as something like this. You know? That's not to say that this is worse or to say that this is better. It's just that for our purposes of our dwarf arena battle game, right? My buddy Evan, I should have known it was Evan's work. Excuse me. I was just thinking to my head, like I was like, we should just hire Evan because Evan draws badass dwarves. But we did just randomly select him anyway. You know, it's that simple. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
And so imagine if your portfolio is just has a bunch of stuff that makes no sense and has no parallel and it's just kind of all over the place and none of it's any good.
Oh,
You'll,
like my actual portfolio.
absolutely. I'm sure that's the case. No, I'm serious. Like, yeah, you're right. I'm positive that's probably the case. Because if you look at Evan's portfolio, there's a very clear kind of standard that he has for himself and quality that he lives on and the kind of aesthetic that he admires. You get that?
Yeah.
Yeah, if we look at this orc, same thing. I'm sure we'd find a very clear path. You understand? Watch what happens when we go and look at, let's go to latest. Latest will just have every single person, right? So let's find somebody that has mediocre artwork. No, no offense necessarily to Vonka, but I just want to make a strong point. Would we hire her over Evan? The answer is obviously not. Not to say that this person can never be any good. That's not what I'm trying to get at. My point is that at the point, the state of where their work is at now, it's going to be harder for them, right? And if you just look at people who have, let's see, trying to find somebody that might have a variety of stuff. Let's see what this guy's got going. Oh, wow. This is completely not the case. This person has a little bit better stuff. It's just that Darth Vader is not the best. All right, let me see if I can find somebody else. Let's try this person. Yeah, usually consistently you'll see just like a really low quality of work, right? But what also you'll see is two things. One, they'll have very limited amount of work, like that person only had 5. Or two, I'm not sure, this person might have a lot of stuff. They'll have just a variety of different work and very little of that work. See that? Like there's like different environments, there's like a weapon, there's some still life, there's fan art, right? Hold on, the door is open. Oh, but my wife's gone, that's why. It's her birthday today, so she went to go get some breakfast with her friend. I had to leave the door open just in case my kids kill each other. You see what I'm saying? Like it's just like all kind of all over the place. And it's hard for me to tell, like, what does this person actually want to do other than just paint? Okay? You know? And then when you go to ArtStation and you don't look at the latest, you look at just the front page, which is usually the ones that are most popular, right? It's usually really good artwork. And when you click on any one of these, you will usually see a very specific trend of consistency.
That guy's fucking boss, eh?
Yeah. But he is very clear on what he wants to do, and he does what he wants. And he likes it, obviously. He loves it. Okay? And the way that, if we're doing the mock example again, the way that we were saying, right? If you go from the point of view of we're trying to hire an artist who can do this work, you know, right? Then this is our guy or gal. This is actually really cool. Oh, but they have very little stuff. I'm actually trying to look into doing really low poly game res. Looks like this person's really bad at unwrapping, just like I am. Perfect. Thought I was the only one. They don't know how to spell render either. 3D render shot. I bet
Rander.
that's not their first language. Now they're probably Korean. Yeah, they're Korean's probably their first language. So they are forgiven. It's not okay when I make a misspelling, with English as being my first language. So I think Jason was asking a question that's kind of a subset of your question, which I'm going to go on to that one. But hopefully that answers your conundrum or the riddle that you had for yourself.
Oh, more than answers, yeah.
Okay, cool. So
to think about.
So obviously try to get jobs, try to get the career moving. No problems there. But never lose sight that doesn't guarantee you're going to make progress, okay? In the way that you would like. And so consider that the best way to make progress is doing what you're doing now, which is, taking classes, learning online, keep on doing your personal work, you know what I mean? Just keep becoming better, keep updating your portfolio, and go to events, talk to people outside of your work, talk to people that are not necessarily concept artists. Just make friends. Just talk to people, find opportunities to engage and be friendly with people. Make meaningful relationships with people, because that goes a long way in a lot of different ways. People that you make good friendships with will be around when you're on your highs, obviously, but also with your lows, and keep those people around, the ones that stay with you on your lows. Right? Never forget those, because you will have lows, I promise you. Okay? And so surround yourself with good people, like-minded people, and you'll be shocked at how much you can accomplish. All right? And so what if you have multiple things that you're interested, like I think Jason was suggesting? You're allowed to have multiple things you're interested in. Just try to stay focused on one thing at a time. Because a lot of times when people are like interested, I want to do everything. That's fine, but there's not enough time to do everything. you can do multiple things for sure, and you can definitely try to get good at these multiple things. So here's a good way, or here's a good concept to think about. Let's imagine that this is a timeline. I'll make two timelines. So imagine that in this timeline is 5 years, and within this timeline, you pick up different things. You pick up object A, object B, object C, object D. So you've learned yourself 4 different things, correct? Now, what if in the same 5 years you pick only one of these things? And let's say B represents character or concept artist, where A might be 3D modeler and C might mean animator, D might mean whatever, right? Now, who would be better at multiple things? Number 1 or number 2? Number 1, clearly, right? No brainer. But who would be the better character concept artist? Number 2, obviously, right? But think about it. This person, in terms of how much better they will literally be almost 4 times better than the other guy. That's tremendous. That means they will stand out. Illustration is a specialty too, yes. So if you want to just be an illustrator, that is a thing on its own. Okay? But I'm trying to try to capture this concept that, what if you want to do everything? And I usually encourage people not to have that as their starting point. First, master something and then broaden your horizon, because once you've mastered something, when you go to dive into other things, you can always fall back onto your original mastery, your original profession. And for that, to me, is being a character concept artist / instructor. I've been a character concept artist for nearly 10 or over 10 years now, and I have been a instructor for nearly 6 years now. So I'm an expertise at both of these things because I've just done it for so long. And I'll only become better the older I get and the more I do it. Okay, and so I'm starting to learn programming. I'm starting to learn animation. I'm starting to learn 3D. I'm starting to be more of a generalist. Not because I want to be a generalist. It's because I want to make interactive experiences. I want to make video games or something of that nature. I'm really engaged with that. I think that's really cool. I think that's the future too. And it's just really interesting to me. And I know it's going to take time. And so it might seem like I'm generalizing my skill set, but the reality is I'm still focused on being an expert on developing experience. It just happens to be that I need to learn all these different things. So I'm just trying to find the simplest solution to this problem that doesn't require me to be an expert at each individual thing. I just need to just be good enough at each individual thing so it allows me to become an expert at that one thing, which is game design and game development. Luckily for me, I've put a lot of effort and energy into concept art, which means that I have a good idea of how to look at the overall project aesthetically. So my 3D modeling will just be a little bit better. My animation sensibility will just be a little bit better because like basically all the stuff on the art side is just going to be a little bit better than someone who just starts fresh because I have a really strong understanding of that. But I don't assume that I'm going to be the best. Like I don't assume that my game experiences are going to just be amazing aesthetic masterpieces. I know that also might take time because it's a different world than just painting. So hopefully that gives you some insight on that, Jason. So whoever had another question, go for it. I know some people had, I think Blash. Go ahead, Blash. Bleach.
Hey.
Blush.
Will you ever get it right?
I get it right. It's just funny to get it wrong.
No, on previous matter, I would just like to point out I work mainly in 3D, as I mentioned, and we managed to get really crappy concept art design a lot of times, and I think that having knowledge in 3D makes you a better concept artist. If you know not every character translates into 3D
Yes,
well, yeah.
I
So I
agree
think
with it.
if you invest in the knowledge, the order of it, it's not that important. But anywho, my question is regarding your rendering style. Because I already know that I'll be struggling with the next level of the detail that I like in your paintings. Do you feed these details based on the strokes you make, or those broader strokes that you made previously, or do you base your strokes of your knowledge of anatomy, or
So it's a little bit of everything, right? So
yeah?
I'm really good at brushwork. That just takes time and practice. But I'm also have a lot of knowledge about stuff like anatomy, design. So all that stuff come to the rescue whenever I'm trying to paint something. And so it's one of those types of answers that I tell people that it's really hard to just tell you how to do it. Like I genuinely can give you some good advice, but like at the end of the day, you still got to get there and just get your feet wet with it. But with that being said, one of the best strategies that you can do is focus on learning more structural anatomy, like on basically all the major muscles. You don't have to learn anything else. Like just learn all the major muscles and what have you. Okay,
Mm.
and then learn forms. Like really master forms. Forms is one of the things that I think a lot of people get wrong. Like they don't understand their form.
You mean like shading them, or
No, I mean like they just don't understand what they're rendering. Meaning like
mm,
they render their shapes, they don't render their forms. So let me explain. So it's like you'll you'll draw this shape, but then when you're rendering it like this, and you're just like shadowing it like that. And it's like you're just kind of tracing the form versus, or tracing the shape versus painting the form versus like saying, this is like the top plane, and then
mm,
this is the side plane.
cake for your birthday?
Yeah. You see it, what I'm getting at? Like that's form. Like I'm painting a three-dimensional idea. Like this
Mm.
is a shape. This is like a square. This is also a shape, but we can get form from this. Really oblong form.
Mm.
But you get my point.
Mm. Mm.
I can do better. I usually do better. Give you some perspective. You know? And so even with this shape, people will do this. They'll like render like the corners, and then they'll like shadow the corners, and that's how they light. But the reality is like, no, it's like light will hit this top plane entirely, and then the sides will just be in shadow.
Mm.
Okay, so because everyone understands lighting, I feel like, or most people understand lighting. Um, if I were to draw a cube again, okay, and then I would say this is A, this is B, and this is C. And if I were to say that the light was coming from the top, which side would be lit?
Well, A.
See, you know lighting. which which side would be lit?
Yeah, from the right sides.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get it. You're a master lighter. But see,
Yep.
the problem is when you would render it like this. People who don't understand the form,
Unless it's a
understand the
backlight.
form. Yeah, unless it's a backlight. Because in C's situation, that's how you light it. That's how it works. So you're not entirely wrong with the idea of understanding some 3D. It helps. Like it does. Like I know some 3D and it helps to understand things in 3D space. But like whenever people are painting, they don't do this. So like let's say you're drawing a character and you have like all this cool shapes and stuff. What you should also do is kind of just basically draw like a faux topology on top of it, you know, that will help you see the form. Get it? So then when you're saying that the light's coming from in this direction, then you can kind of be like, oh, well, this would probably be all lit. But then it kind of, I'm implying that it dips down, so then this would be all lit. See what I'm saying? And then maybe this will be casting a shadow back on top of that. And then all of a sudden you're painting. Like, and I usually only have like one light source in my paintings. Like with this one's being like omni-lit, so everything's being lit. This is kind of like a painterly style though. It's like
ambient occlusion.
yeah, it's like a Brahm type style of painting, like an old traditional like Frazetta aesthetic. So there's that, but like again, it's just like I'm still thinking of like an overall lighting source coming from above.
Like a cloud day.
Yeah. So
cool. Thanks.
Yeah. So focus most of your attention on practicing brushwork and painting like that, but also when you're lighting your things, know what you're lighting. Like try to see the forms.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, someone else had a question. At least I thought they did.
Yeah, I had a question.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, I had a question. Well, it's a continuation of what Jason, what you were saying about with Jason and Nolan. So I really enjoy sculpting and doing 3D stuff. and one of the purposes I took your class is because I wanted to learn more design and get better at drawing and painting, because from some advice, or if you can draw, you can sculpt, or you can translate that into 3D, or that. So but I want to, I guess, how can I don't know, it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, I want to specialize in 3D, but I want to also draw, right? Be good at drawing. Now I know it does take time and everything, and I should be just a master of one.
Yes. Highly recommend that. Then be a master at 3D. If that's what you want to do, then start focusing on 3D. And you could start even with my class. I don't really mind if people submit 3D concepts.
Okay.
Okay, so you're making an assumption, and I'm gonna. Uh-oh, what happened to my son? Hold on. Oh man, my son, he put his toy train in his hair, and it's like motorized, so he got his hair all tangled up. But I got him. I saved him. Rescued him.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah, he was suffering, but I try to explain to him basic mechanics and entanglements. I think now he knows. He's a smart kid. Like it only takes one time for him to learn, and he won't do it again. Anyway, where was I? So yeah, you were making this assumption that 3D or like 2D is the only way to kind of potentially learn some good sense of design, like being able to draw it. You're right. There's a good sense of understanding if you can draw, like just freehand, because a lot of things aren't given to you when you draw, right? Like you don't learn, you don't get lighting or three-dimensionality for free. You have to just draw it all, right? So there's a lot of power in understanding two-dimensional drawing and design. But let me make it very clear to you. You can learn design completely through 3D. It's just a tool. They're all just tools. 2D, just drawing in Photoshop is still just a tool. Okay? It's a great way to learn, right? And it'll allow you to like I said, it's kind of more of a focused way of learning if you just only stick with 2D. But
Mm-hmm.
you can definitely learn with whatever tool. Seriously. Let me give you an example. One of my favorite examples that I give every time.
So, so what kind of approach, because I mean, I was approaching it like, I saw your video and how to study, painters and stuff.
Yeah.
Would you approach it that same way in 3D?
Yeah, so the studying
Like,
is there's no difference. So you're focusing on the literal study of what I was doing, but you weren't looking at necessarily the scope of what I was trying to get at, which is this is just how you study, meaning pay attention. That's it,
mm-hmm.
right? Like pay attention and then take it apart. You can do that with 3D. You can do the same thing. You know, you can do the same. Like you can take apart a painting, but do everything in 3D. Like you can try to replicate something that you've seen a painter do, but do it in 3D. That's totally that's totally possible. So like, let me ask you. This is Vitaly Bulgarov, right? Really nice guy. One of the most efficient and most laser-focused people I've ever met in my life. Now, would you say that he doesn't have a good sense of design?
No.
Yeah, it's pretty good, right? He doesn't draw. How did he do it? You know?
Doing it a lot.
Doing it a lot, but he was tremendous about his practice study. That is something that he religiously does. So there was this project that he made where he said 10 days of mechs. So every day he made a mech. He made this mech right here in one day. Looks like voodoo magic, right? So how in the hell he made these mechs in one day? Looks like voodoo magic. There he is right there, Vitaly, super Russian. He made this in one day.
Awesome.
No, I think he modeled all of these in XSI. I think he hand modeled them, sub D modeling. He uses ZBrush now. He still uses ZBrush. Not for these though. He didn't use ZBrush at all for these. Recently, most of his more recent stuff he does a little bit of ZBrush. He's also does Moi 3D and does other software. But that's my point. All that is irrelevant. Okay, like that's all irrelevant. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because let's take a look at my buddy Fuad. He did one recently that was insane. This is fine. This is pretty good too, right?
Yeah.
This is not done in XSI. This is done in 3D Coat. So is 3D Coat
Nice.
the better tool? In my opinion,
No,
yes.
it's just.
In my opinion, yes, 3D Coat's one of the best. But you see, my point is like it's not a matter of the tool. The tools, let's be very clear here, are helpful. They are not like
Right.
if you don't have a tool, like it doesn't mean that you're like some sort of master genius. Like you should use really good tools and the tools that make sense for you. Okay, that's important. Like it's easier to build a table using multiple tools. Like if you only had your fists and nails, it's gonna be very hard, right? But if you had like a saw, a drill, a hammer, all the essentials to build a really nice and decorative table, you'll do it more effectively. And then depending on the kind of saw and the kind of drills, you can do it even better, right? But if you don't know how to structurally build the table, then it's kind of pointless even if you have all those tools.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you're focused specifically on the tools as a way to learn design. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, you have to understand 2D is still a tool.
Mm-hmm.
You can still learn design but you can do it all through 3D. You can still learn design and do it all through 2D. I highly recommend people focus, I tell this to everybody, the fundamental knowledge, not so much the tool in which you're learning that fundamental knowledge, just the fundamental knowledge. Like learn lighting in 3D. Like try to make a scene look well lit in 3D. It's hard. Because if it was easy, then everybody would have amazing lighting, even if they did 3D artwork, right? But that's not the case. Let me give you this is not the right. Oops. Okay. Let me see if I can find some trash here. Just give me a sec. This is actually a pretty good example. I think they're just showing the low poly versus the high poly. So this is actually really great, this example right here, right? Look at this gun, right? It's clearly out of just the 3D renderer. You know, it's not very dramatic. It's not very nice looking. It's just straight out of the engine, or straight out of the, not the engine, but the software. It's flat. It's not that impressive, you know? And if you look, like you'll see, like, this rarely happens, actually. I'm surprised I'm getting really good at just... Oh, this is actually a great idea. Take a look at 3D models of Mr. White. Or Heisenberg. Oh, this is perfect. Let's look at this one. Okay, so we got that one. Yep, he's a good friend of mine. We went to school together. And we can even do it straight out of ZBrush. It's crazy. Like, I have ZBrush. My stuff doesn't look that good. Like, how does he make it look that good even just in ZBrush? You know, right out of the renderer. So let's give this other artist the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's just right out of the renderer too, right? He's not actually. He tried to lie. So there's a clear difference between Frank's 3D model of Mr. White, right? Heisenberg. Versus this miscellaneous artist who knows who did this. But again, I'm not trying to knock on them. I'm not trying to say they're bad people. They're just not as good as they can be, because Frank is obviously the best. Do you see the kind of point I'm trying to make?
That is amazing. Yes.
But they're both using 3D, so why doesn't that guy on the right have like awesome 3D artwork? You know? Do you see what I'm saying? Like the tool doesn't matter, right? Like really, it's all the other stuff. Like, and the thing is, Frank has an extensive knowledge of photorealism and likeness. He's really good at it, and he has gun run videos on it. Like he talks about it in a really intelligent way, and he's really smart, and he is really capable of creating these really convincing 3D models that look like real people. It's insane. Like his sense of likeness is amazing. And that's why if you look at Nathan Drake, Uncharted 4, right, this is what's amazing, man. Like, if you look at, I'm trying to find like a really good shot. This is pretty good. Frank sculpted and modeled this. Looks like a real person, right? Like there's some stuff there that we can catch that gives us an idea that's not real, right? But overall, like it looks like a real person, you know? And here's the craziest thing. Frank didn't have a person to model from. Like it wasn't like he made like with Dr. White, he just, you know, remodeled Bryan Cranston, right? But with this, there is no actor. You get it? Like this is just a completely invented person. Yeah. And he looked at the old version and he took cues from that, and obviously he uses tons of reference of real people to come to the conclusion that this is what Nathan Drake would look like if he was real, you know? And that's because of his foundational knowledge of what makes people look like people. He's really good at that. And so like he did his brother too, so he was able to make his brother Sam look like their brothers. Again, a completely made up person. You know? And it's because he has a strong understanding of what makes people look like real people. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he's
Gotcha.
like, in my opinion, one of the best character concept modelers in the industry, like the best. There might be a few others that are really right up to par with him. And I don't mean, because there's people there that are really good at mapping other like real actors and people and putting them in game. That's a hard thing to do. But what's great about
Mm-hmm.
Frank is like he can just completely invent somebody and make it look like he might have cast, like he it looks like he might have actually sculpted from some real person, but he didn't. It's all completely manufactured. Yeah, he's really good at that. Like don't get it twisted either. Like he uses tons of reference because it's really hard to make people look like real people. Just like Vitaly, it's really hard to make mechs look like real mechs. Like he talked about in this article, if you go back, he talks about it. Maybe not here, but if you go to his blog, he talks about it. He goes into detail explaining how he spent 2 to 3 months of R&D before he began the 10 days of mechs. So it wasn't like he just said, I'm just going to do 10 days of mechs, and he just started pumping out mechs, it wasn't like that at all. He just decided to start to he just started to learn what he could do. He started building the pieces. He said, I'm going to build like a library of shapes and forms, and then I'm going to kit bash them together to create an array of characters and designs and mechs. And that's what he did. And that's why he was able to pump out 10 days of mechs, because it was a little bit of kit bashing, a little bit of just really strong foundational knowledge, and lots of practice and workflow efficiencies. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So don't
Okay.
feel that you can't do 3D in the class is what I'm trying to get at, to try to practice that. I have another student in the class, Teo, who's doing that. He's trying to do 3D concepts, and I'm helping him with that.
Okay.
And let me be
Oh, that's
clear here. When I say be, really focused and laser focused, that doesn't necessarily mean you can never touch 2D. Like, don't ever pick up a pencil. Like, you better stay on that 3D train, bro. Like, no, of course you could pick it up here and there, as just a way to just sharpen that other tool, which is 3D, like what you're doing now, which is fine. Like, I obviously know 3D really well because I've always picked it up and used it as a tool to design with. Because it's the greater scope that I focus on, which is I want to be a good concept artist, character concept artist specifically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I happen to use 3D to do that, that's fine. I'm still in the category of what I'm trying to be efficient at.
Mm-hmm. So I guess my other I guess issue is, how can you, or I guess how do you manage this part? Like, you say yeah, go out there, meet people, get to know people, and then also work on your art and be a friend and everything.
Mm-hmm.
How do you I guess manage, because sometimes you get focused and you're in your room and it's like you get in your box and then you go out there and then you just feel awkward talking to people. Sometimes that happens, and you try to talk to people and then or you try to hang out with those people and then of course they got their own lives and everything, or they don't want to do anything like artsy or
Yeah.
or stuff like that. And you know, pretty much like the people I grew up here in Atlanta, they were mostly like, you know, they wanted to do music, but they ended up, you know, getting their girlfriends pregnant, and they didn't end up doing anything with their lives, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. I know
So
people like that. Um,
yeah, and
so I wouldn't worry about any of that. The way that you're doing it, like you're making it seem like there's no time. Uh, I'm trying to tell you that there is plenty
mhm,
of time. Okay, don't make it like the question is rooted around some sort of ambiguous timeline. Like, what's your hurry? You know,
mhm,
that's a question. Like, why does it have to be every day? You have to be constantly doing one or the other. Why can't it just be increments? And that's kind of what I'm
mhm,
getting at. Like, laser focus doesn't mean spending 17 hours a day doing one thing. Laser focus just means don't get distracted. Stay on task every day, continuously, until you
okay,
become a master at it, and until you become an expert at that. And that just will take time. Even if you were putting 17 hours a day, it still would take time, you know? And I argue that
mhm,
you don't need to spend more than 6 hours a day trying to be a master at what you want to learn. Okay? It's actually more
mhm,
healthy for you to do it that way. But some people are a little ambitious. It's fine to go a little over that, and it's fine to go a little under. But that consistency, like, did you do at least an hour of whatever you wanted to do?
right.
You know,
Yeah, but then
and
you you know, you see like people pumping up things so fast, and you're like, why am I so slow?
yeah,
You
again,
know?
how's that relevant to you? That's them. That's not you.
Yeah,
Like, see,
yeah.
here's a conundrum, or so sorry. Here's a problem that you're experiencing. Okay, I'm going to tell you specifically, and I think everyone else can relate in some sense. But you need to stop finding reasons why something is difficult. Because I can tell you right now, every motherfucking thing in this world is difficult. Okay,
Yeah,
so no shock. Life is hard. Okay,
yeah.
so now that we got that out of the way, start finding reasons why you should do it. Okay, it's all of a perspective change, right? There's the great saying of, like, do you see the glass half full or half empty? I'm sure you've heard of that, right?
Mhm.
And then I've heard people say, when you look at it half full, you're more positive. You're thinking, oh, it's mostly full. It's filling up. And then people who look at it as half empty, they're like saying, they say, oh, uh, it's going down, right? I'm trying to get you on the more half full side of the equation, okay? Because it's
Mhm.
true. Both people are right that it could be either be half full or half empty. But then I've heard
Mhm.
people approach that same philosophy. They say, no, why is that cup not full at all? Let's put some more water in there, you know?
Mhm.
And so let's make it
Yeah.
very clearly full. And I like that perspective as well. Like, it's all about perspective. It's all, if you look at it from the point of view that, well, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if this is possible. I don't know. Like, that's all irrelevant. What's relevant
Mhm.
is, um, because you can answer that question right now. Let me ask you, do you think it's possible for you to be a really amazing 3D concept artist?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's totally possible. Like, it's not an
Mhm.
unreasonable task or dream. Like, if you were to come to me and say, AJ, I really want to touch the sun with my fingers, then I'd say, with the technology and the fragility of our bodies, that seems very, very unlikely. Okay,
Right.
so, like, try to pick a more reasonable dream. But most of you guys, there's not going to be a person in my class that I feel cannot achieve what they would set out to achieve. I met too many people in my life, and I've experienced it myself to doubt that it's not possible. It's absolutely within grasp. So then the next question isn't so much about whether you can, because you already know you can. It's just now a matter of how long, and that's a little harder
Mhm.
question to answer, right? But I always tell people there's
Yeah.
two things that you should worry about, which is patience and resilience. Patience meaning that just,
Mm-hmm.
it takes time. Just takes time to do whatever it is. And resilience because life sucks and will throw you hardballs all the time. And when that stuff happens, don't let that be a distraction. Don't let that make you quit. Because the
Mm-hmm.
difference between you right now and people who've accomplished great things, like myself, for instance, is I just kept at it for many years. That's really the only difference. Obviously there's nuances.
Gotcha.
And so to give you some of those nuances. So find reasons why you should do something. That's a nuance. Like instead of saying, what if like you don't have this or that? Like say, why should I make connections? Oh, well, AJ made it very clear. Like when you make more friends, then you have more opportunities. Makes sense. That makes sense to me. I agree with that sentiment. Okay, so then the next question is, how can I, not person B or person C, person A, you, how can I make this happen? So let me ask you, how can you make this happen?
Um, Scheduling better.
No, I'm sorry, specifically the meeting people. Let's talk about that one. Because you were giving all the
Oh,
reasons why it would be difficult, like you'd be shy or maybe you can't meet the right, like those are all true, but that's irrelevant. Like, uh, what is it that you can do today? What do you think you can do?
well, here in Atlanta, mostly is I go to a sculpting studio and I meet people there, or
Perfect.
clubs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, going to a
Uh,
club might not be the best alternative, right? Think about it, but that's a good place to start. It's just going out and meeting people. But see, going to the sculpting club, what else can you do? People overrated.
uh, maybe go to the meetings here, which I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes at the meetings here, the GGDA meetings.
Yeah. See, you don't have to necessarily leave your house, right? You can be in your pajamas the whole time. You can meet people online. Online has made it so people are more connected than ever. You get it?
Hmm. Yeah.
I made the Discord specifically for people like you, like mostly for people, not just for people like me. People like me are the kinds of people that will go out and make friends and go to these events, because that's just what I enjoy. But other people don't like to do that. Well, other people just kind of want to sit home and just work. But you can always go online and work with other people. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And another thing that you say is another thing that you can consider is that um, if you just put your artwork out there, that's another way of connecting with people. Maybe you're not making meaningful friendships, but at least you're putting yourself out there for people to find. That's another great way to increase your reputation in the industry. Okay?
Mm.
So, and then in terms of getting better, like how could you get better? Well, what if I do this? What if I do that? Like, and then just start doing it. And as soon as you make that choice, then do it. Okay?
Got it.
And try not to do a lot either. That's another thing. Like laser focus, what's great about that is that if you focus on one or two things, then you are not tasking yourself with like, well, now I need to learn animation and this and that and that and that and this, and you have like a million things you have to try to learn in a day, and you get overwhelmed and you don't do anything, which is worse. But if you just say, I'm just going to learn how to make a box in this 3D software, or I'm going to learn how to design a little bit of the thing here, and make that the whole focus of your day, you'll accomplish a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the other thing that I had an issue with is like you said, focusing, because I had, you have the Facebook app, and you always, for whatever reason, when you see the little 2 or you see a little 1, and I got an
Yeah,
iPhone, so when you see, you're like, okay, what's happening, and then you
yeah,
get stuck there for 30,
yeah.
so I had to delete that app so I can like focus. Um, and do you feel like, yeah, I mean, that's a distraction. How do you, I don't know, how do you
So,
keep
so,
yourself from like,
using timers,
gotcha.
because time doesn't hold still. So if you give yourself 30 minutes to accomplish something and you're on your Facebook for 10 minutes of that, you'll start to learn that's something that's going on.
Mhm.
But I highly recommend, if you have to delete the app to make it so you can really build that self-discipline, then do that. But I actually encourage people not to delete apps, not to delete their things, whatever. Just try to just learn discipline, because new distractions will come in your life. There will be new technologies,
Yeah.
new ways to get distracted, you know? And so if you can just build a strong like form of discipline on the on the onset, then whatever distractions will come your way, you'll be able to kind of vet through them. Okay? And you just got to
Gotcha.
train that.
Okay.
Everything takes effort to become good at. Don't just, there's no easy way. There's no easy answer to becoming disciplined. You just got to do things to practice that. One thing that you must try to practice is just building a mandatory thing that you have to do every single day, no matter what. Whether that's just drawing for
Mhm.
30 minutes, whether that's designing for 30 minutes or modeling for 30 minutes, whatever that may be. It's mandatory. You have to do this one thing, even if it's just a little bit of it. Okay? And then just add on to that as weeks go by and months go by and then years go by. And then eventually you'll build a strong standard. I saw Jason ask the question. Well, did I help you out, bud? By the way, I think I did.
Yeah,
Helpful?
I appreciate it. Sorry, guys.
No, that's
Sorry,
good.
guys,
I
for
think a
holding
lot of
on that, but I
people,
appreciate
I'm sure those students, if I feel like it was like kind of a only an individualized question, like if I didn't think anyone else would benefit from the answer, then I wouldn't have answered it the way that I did. Um, so Jason said, like, what if you have a lot of connections and a lot of friends? Oh yeah, you just touch base with people every so often. You don't have to like constantly engage with every single person. Um, be friendly, like make friend, like every time you encounter someone new, just be as friendly as you possibly can to that person. And if they happen to be a jerk off, then just, you don't have to keep hanging out with those people. Just divorce yourself from those instances. I have a small subset of people that I've met in the industry, very, very small, very, very small, where I generally try to avoid talking to them because they aren't really good people. See, the unfortunate thing, guys, is that you can become really good at art and still be an asshole. That's still a thing that can happen. Okay. And so I met people like that and I just avoid them if I can. But yeah, like for instance, I like to tag people every so often. Like I'll just message somebody on Facebook and say, hey, how you doing? How are things? And then I just bounce out. Or whenever I go to events and I see them, it's always nice to just hang out. But I usually, in terms of the people that I commit a lot of my time and effort to, it's obviously my family. But then aside from that, like my close friends, I try to go out to lunch with them or dinner, or I'll try to set up like a board game night, you know. Yeah, I have John. He actually helps me maintain because I have like all these different social networks, and so I maintain a few of them. Like obviously, like my Facebook, my ArtStation, and that's pretty much it. And Instagram, but I do that from my bed, so that one's really easy. But then John helps me manage a lot of the other stuff. That just takes a lot of effort. It does take a lot of effort. And then via emails and stuff, because I get a lot of emails, I usually will just have him vet through them. And if there's a really meaningful email, like whether someone says something really nice and really does require some of my individual attention, or if there's like a job inquiry or interview or whatever it may be, I'll usually engage in that. But otherwise, I just stay focused on very minimal amount of things I interact with, and then stay on top of just my real close friends. Because those people matter to me. They've been with me through thick and thin, so it's important to maintain those relationships above all else. And some of them happen to be just badass artists, but they could be the worst artists, and I would still try to find time. Like some of my students, for instance, not that they're bad artists, but just some of my students I'm really good friends with. I have a student named Nick, and we went paintballing, or not paintballing, airsofting this last weekend. And he was once my student, but he lives out here, and we hang out often. He's always comes out and plays board games with us. He goes to our events, and so he's definitely demonstrated like he's a good person, like he's a good friend. Like he didn't just take my classes because he enjoyed learning from me, but he generally is trying to make friends with me, and he really cares about what I'm up to, right? And so he matters to me in that way. And then there's like other students that are like that. A lot of students, actually. I care about my students a lot. Whenever I go to these events and like my students are there, I usually end up hanging out with my students more than I hang out with, let's say, the professional artists that are also hosts there or speakers there. Not to say that I don't like those artists. It's just my students and I have a much more meaningful connection because you guys are trying to learn from me. So you guys supported me by, putting money into the school, into my mentoring, and that puts money or that puts food on the plate for my children. That's all related, and I'm not delusional to that. My success and my happiness that my family can enjoy is a product of my students who support my classes and take advantage of what I have to offer, And so I am not delusional to that. Like I know who is supporting me and who I should support back. So that's why I make it very clear you guys should just make a strong statement about the kinds of people you want to surround yourself with. Because if you surround yourself with people that are just kind of poison, but they're good artists, though, it's going to be a bad situation. So anyway, is there any other questions? One more question I'm going to roll out. I have to get some work done. And my wife's B-day. I'm going to do some stuff with her. No? Oh, play video games. Video games are fine. Again, moderation. I'm a big fan of people playing video games and hanging out and being interactive. That's not just always about working. You have to have time where you can just relax, and if you're not relaxing, it's actually detrimental to your growth. You have to have an opportunity for your brain to rest. So that's why your brain will make you go on overdrive procrastination if you were working extremely hard, like week on end. Your brain will eventually just be like, all right, like let's just procrastinate now for the next few years. And it's because you overworked yourself. So keep that in mind. So I highly encourage people to exercise, to not work too hard, to relax, and enjoy some quality time just with yourself or with some friends. Hey, Delilah, which color do you like? Tell me which one you like. Tell me to stop. Pink? This one right here? Purple?
Blue.
What? You're naming all the colors. Which one do you want me to do?
Blue.
This.
Turquoise.
Turquoise? Like right here?
Uh-huh.
Ah. Okay, I like it. All right, guys. Whoa, what the? I appreciate you guys. Thanks for all the great questions. Thanks for all the good work. You guys have a great weekend. Remember to hang out with the Discord. There's many other students just like you guys that are willing to help out and give you guys some advice or just to hang out and just talk about stuff. And enjoy your weekend. And I'll talk to you guys next week. Laters, y'all. Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you like the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.